So we've got our first primary projection. And what I did was I actually changed the color of the ambient occlusion on the patch cam to red, so you could see how it works, basically. So I've done no dilating and no blending, but you can see what gets revealed immediately and what gets patched by the second camera, if that makes sense. So that whole side of the building, all this stuff, all the stuff that was black because it was not seen from here. So, and yes, you can do, like I said, I guess in the alleyway thing I did, where you can pull back a bit and include more of that in your first primary. But yeah, it's not what I did with this one. So we can see that, okay, cool. You know, we get a little bit of that. I mean, what we do gain is that, which is fantastic, because it's obviously we get nothing in the first one, and what's occluded by the gutters and stuff in the poles. Now, there's some things that are happening that aren't right, but that's where you use extra patch cams. So what I did was the next one, and now I guess this is a good time to. I'll do it in the next scene, because it's easier to show with more than one patch cam. Is how the kind of the GS shadow masking works. So the third one, we've got our primary projection, our patch cam 1, and patch cam 2. So patch cam 2, I've gone kind of higher up and pulled back, so you see more of in here, what gets occluded, kind of looking down in here. And I think I made that one green. So if I look at 3, yeah. So that just fixes a few of the other little problem areas that you couldn't see before. And there might be a few other problem areas. But you get the idea from this. You see, obviously you have kind of 2 primary ones, and then you've got all these little fixes, basically. So I guess to look at that, I'll just basically redo it, just in case it isn't clear. So what I want to do is just... That's what I want. So I set stage 1, primary project. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get rid of the spots, and I'm just going to delete all the existing Matte Painting Toolkit nodes and all the projections, and we'll just redo all that. Okay, as you can see from above, we have 4 cameras. One's the moving camera, you can see there, and then we've got our primary projection, which is at the start of the camera move. Secondary one there, which has been pulled back a bit, just from like a duplicate there, and then our third one, which is just kind of a random. Well, it's not random. I mean, it patches some stuff, and then we'll need some extra ones. But anyway, I just want to go through the process, I guess, of assigning the Matte Painting Toolkit, especially showing the GS shadow node, how that works. So what you do, you've basically, you've created your primary, and you've rendered out an occlusion. You've then gone to your secondary. So you've rendered that out, rendered the movie, kind of know you need to go somewhere towards the end for your first patch. And you've rendered that out. And then, you might be trying, I guess, or testing a third one. So anyway, so what you want to do is assign the Matte Painting Toolkit to be able to see what works and what doesn't. So, let's go back to perspective. Let's move that out of the way. Okay, so I guess in a nutshell, it really is a case of, it says this in the manual, but just to explain how it works, you choose to use the GS Shadow node, which by the way only works in Mental Ray. You can't use the Maya renderer. But basically, you choose your first camera, which is your primary projection. Now, if you hit light there, the shelf for light, which attaches a spotlight, which creates a GS shadow node, basically it creates a mask of everything that's occluded. So the theory is then, if you say choose your first camera, your next camera, and then your third camera, if that makes sense. So the first camera creates a mask for the second camera. The second camera creates a mask for the third camera, and so forth, so on and so forth. So the way that you then create them is you choose your first one, I guess to the way you create your projections, but you don't choose the last one, obviously, unless it won't do anything. So your primary creates a mask for your patch cam 1, your patch cam 1 creates a mask for your patch cam 2, and create lights. So, sorry, I did what I wasn't supposed to do. Your primary creates a mask for your patch cam, and then your patch cam creates a mask for your patch cam 2, so you only need 2 there. So you choose 2 lights and create the 2 lights. And that creates the GS occlusion matte. No, I was saying GS shadow. Now, I won't use any of the dilate in the road yet. I'll deal with that as once we're texturing. But that's kind of the theory, that the first camera creates a mask for the next, etc., etc. So once you've done that, choose your primary, and again in order, primary patch and patch cam 2, and go cam. So that creates your Matte Painting Toolkit or GS Proj Cam Mix node network. So you do hypershade. So basically it's just 2 stages that you need to do. And you'll find Proj Cam Mix in textures, and you just graph the network. So obviously the more and more you do, the more complicated the network becomes. But that's now including the spotlights, which creates an alpha or an inverted alpha that then uses a mask for the projection, if that makes sense. So then that's why you see in QuickTimes, in 3, the red and the green masks are coming from these GS occlusions. Come on. And you can see why. So from here, the spotlight's sending out the light and basically lighting, imagine from this perspective here, that it's creating what you would normally see as a shadow, and that becomes the mask for the next camera. So, it's just a little clever trick, and, works really well. So once you've got your network set up, then you just assign your textures, and as I said previously, it basically does all the connecting for you, which is fantastic. Mainly more than just all the fiddly projection setup you have to do. So you just assign your files, it turns all the filters off for you. It's all good. So first one, or the bottom of the tree, is your primary projection. Next one up would be your patch 1. And then next one is patch 2. Then you select all your geometry. Assign a surface shader. And middle click that onto there. And obviously it's, an external plugin, so it never previews properly as a shader. But that's all assigned. So then now when I go to my moving camera, if I go off frame 1, we should see the Proj Cam Mix in action, I guess, where you've got and just so you can see while it's rendering the image I attached here. So they're just renders, ambient occlusion renders from let's say it's patch cam 1, patch cam 2, and that's primary. That's all it is. And so you can see where the red and the blue's coming in here. And that's what the toolkit does. I mean, essentially. So we know we need another one here. There's probably 2 more that we need, I guess, for our final shot. And possibly a couple of user-defined masks. We'll see how that goes. And I will explain, I guess, that. So that's essentially how you create it. Now, what you get from that is you've got, in this example here, you've got 3 matte paintings, but you don't, because you only need to use, if you look at here, you only have certain, like the green one, for example, is hardly anything. The red one's quite a bit. So once you set up, I guess, your final, once you kind of set up your final, all the patch cams that you need, so what I've done is I had just one more than that patch. So we've got primary, patch 1, patch 2, and then patch 3. That gets all those black areas. I believe I needed another one in here. But anyway, so what I did from that is I sent this whole scene as an FBX to Modo, because as I've said previously, I like to render my stuff in Modo. Now, you don't need to. You could render it here. But what I've basically done is, by sending out an FBX, it creates... Well, I'll just show you. And default settings with the FBX, I mean, there was nothing particularly difficult that I need to do. Obviously, that's not true. What you need to do to send your scene out to Modo is make sure you delete all history, all the standard stuff, because Modo can't read. It doesn't have any kind of history. That's the big one. I mean, anything, any grouping or anything like that, if you can clean up your here as much as possible, and then you delete all your history, and then generally that will, read pretty much, it won't read obviously the matte painting toolkit, because that's an external plugin, but it will read your cameras, your projection cameras, and your geometry, and that's all you need. As long as the projection cameras, match, everything's fine. Okay, so I've sent the scene to Modo, and this is kind of how it looks. So this is literally how the FBX comes in. It comes in with the moving camera with the animation, and then your primary patch cam 1,